Hari.
I have a question.
Yes?
Sometimes it seems that it's useful to engage in thought process.
Yeah.
Like I know something, I can decide something, and it's very easy to get lost. From the practical side of that, just to some, I don't know, identification things.
Mm-hmm.
So how to distinguish, because probably thinking process sometimes is necessary.
Right. How to distinguish between useful thoughts and not useful thoughts?
Kind of, if I have to decide where I have to buy the flight, I have to engage in thought process a little bit.
Right. There is absolutely nothing wrong with thinking. It's a tool. It's a beautiful tool. That capacity to form consciousness into reasonable thought is a beautiful tool that we can use to express that inner beauty. But it should be a tool used where it's appropriate and put aside where it's not appropriate. And somehow something went wrong on the way. Instead of keeping it in its place where it belongs, that as a tool it has become stronger and stronger, and it's the boss, and it ends up in a compulsory process of thinking and thinking and thinking all the time. And in that way, limiting consciousness, always forcing it in that little bubble where we are thinking around. But thinking is beautiful. Without that, there is no expression. There's no intelligence. There's no art. There's no beauty. Nothing wrong with all that.
Okay,
on the practical level.
But how to be and think at the same time? Like not watching thoughts coming and going. If you have to decide something practically, it doesn't work somehow. Just to engage and at the same time to be conscious fully.
Right. It's good that we learn to think less. And really learn to think where it's necessary. Because most of the time we are thinking all kinds of nonsense that is not necessary. Stop anybody on the road and tell them, now for 5 minutes tell me what's going through your mind. It's sheer madness. Instead of just putting rationally, logically one thought after the other to achieve some reasonable result, it goes zoom, 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 zoom. It's madness what goes on in the human mind. And we have to first become aware that we are doing that, because most of the people have not a clue how much energy they are spending just thinking all that unnecessary stuff. For that, we have to learn to become aware. Turn the attention back and see what's going on. And then learn to detach from those lines of thoughts that are not necessary. And then, even when you start your spiritual path, still in the beginning, we cannot help but use the thoughts. The attention is caught up on that mental level, so we need somehow to become aware of that. And consciously, with our thoughts, redirect the attention in the right direction. But there we can let go. Like I said, for example, the question, Ramanath's question, who am I, is still a thought. We're using the mind that is creating all those troubles to catch the attention, to turn the attention, but then if we try to get an answer, then there we are blocked there. And there we can learn to let go and just be quiet. And then you ask, how is it possible to think and be active and still be aware of that? It is always here, it is always there, it's never absent. But as long as we are used to be conscious on the mental level all the time, it seems impossible. And so we learn to practice, we learn to have periods where we are not busy, where we need not think about anything else, where we have the undivided attention to simply be here now, conscious in one way or another. It's very useful if we have every day some time doing nothing else, not busy, just consciously be here. But then we can learn to bring that attention also in our activities. When we are with people, when we are talking, whether we're sitting quietly or whether we're walking through a crowd, but for that we have to have that intent to remind ourselves. Just be aware. As long as the memory doesn't come, we cannot do anything. But if we remember, hey, see, look what I'm doing again. See how my attention is all over the place except being aware of being, except being aware of that sense of presence that is always prior to everything. Then we can learn also in activity just to come back and relax in it. And even if you stay only a few seconds, those few seconds are very precious. And if we do it again and again, it collects its own power, and gradually it starts to happen effortlessly, without you wanting to do. And if you keep up, your attention eventually may dive so deep into it that you don't lose it anymore, whether you are active or inactive. But you cannot just one day decide, okay, from now on I'm aware of that and simultaneously do all the things. Out of habit we just forget all the time. And so we have to remind ourselves, okay, come back.
So it is gradual, yes?
So?
It is gradual, becoming little by little. Because sometimes in this Advaita people circles, they say, oh, no need to be silent. Yes, we can talk, we can be active, we can go dancing.
Yes. Yes, I know, they say so. By all means, if you want to go dancing, dance, but dance consciously. Don't dance and dream away all over the place. Bring your attention to the present. Feel your body. Breathe. Be aware, here, now. Somehow bring your attention back. That is what somehow is a bit missing in the modern Advaita teaching. They say, you are already that, all this is of the mind, so don't make any efforts, don't give any attention to it. I agree with them that you are already that. Nothing needs to be done about that. Nothing can be done about that. But if we are just still going on in the mind and being attached to the mind, then we still create our pain. We still create our suffering. And then just philosophically tell it away, well, it's just of the mind. Okay, fine, if you are happy with that, but if you are fed up with suffering, you better do something about it. Then I hear the argument also from that side, but if you are making efforts, that is of the ego. You are just strengthening the ego. Of course, as long as the attention is hooked on the egoistic level, whatever we are doing is colored by that. Also, when we start our spiritual practice, then the pride comes, all that stuff comes, all the ego stuff comes. But what they are not understanding, all that we are consciously not doing is also colored by the ego. All that arrogant, oh, I'm beyond that, I'm not going into that mental level, struggling, trying to connect. Because I am already that, this is pure ego also. It doesn't help, it doesn't make your experience extensive. It just gives on the mental level a bit, people become complacent, and if they are satisfied with that, fine. But if you want to free yourself from that old habit that feels like closing the consciousness in that little bubble where it's always turning round and it's most of the time painful, if you want to free yourself from that, then you better become aware that I am doing that and learn not to do that anymore. So, no matter Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, any school one believes in, I think for everybody it's very helpful if we have every day some time where we can put the undivided attention simply in being consciously present. It builds up a certain force that makes us more alert. And if that current is there, it's much easier when we are in tense situation, when we remember to just relax and be right there again. To feel, to be separate, to feel, to be a person, to feel, to be locked into that bubble is something that we have learned over time and reinforced by unconsciously repeating all the same stuff again and again. It doesn't change the fact that you are beyond that you are prior to that. But the experience invariably is that it's that painful business of me and the other and all that struggle that is always there. And the habit has a force, has its own momentum. And if we have been habitually functioning in a certain way, then even if we decide, okay, I disregard it and come back to the self, the old habit will pull the attention again and again into the same stream. And we don't get around of somehow learning to neutralize that habit. First, become even aware that it is there. And without learning to have a good, honest look at ourselves, there is no chance that we become aware. I'm not saying you should go now and become an ascetic and grind your teeth and desperately struggle and get somewhere. If somebody wants to do so, fine, that's their way, it's also all right. Just learn to be awake instead of half asleep. And for that, because it is not coming effortlessly, because it's not coming naturally as it should be, we have to make that little effort to remind ourselves. Okay, catch the attention, come back home, and relax, and stay with it. And it is a gradual process. It may suddenly push you into a totally new perspective. But even that is different from one to another. And then people, if they have a certain experience, they always jump to the conclusion, oh, that's it, that's now I'm enlightened. And then they started the whole me, enlightened story. Just remain alert again. But maybe the whole struggling part falls off. And everything becomes simple and easy. But it's not, even if you're rotating a new perspective, it's a new beginning. The old chapter is closed and the new starts. And if you keep the alertness, if you don't slip into that, bring the old habit with you and, oh, now I have achieved something, and announce it to the whole world, but remain alert. And then life becomes what it is meant to be. A playful, joyous journey through this crazy time-space continuum, and the experience and the consciousness is expanding all the time, effortlessly, beautifully, uniquely.